Right, welcome back. This video basically will be a continuation from the previous one where we removed the rear panel from the car and started making some rust repairs. So right, a quick recap on the last episode. As you can see, the rear panel's off. Most of it kind of behaved. We got most of it off fairly cleanly. You can see spot welds in that. Couple did go through a handful of times, but you know, it's all right. So in the last video, I started welding this panel in. As you can see, it still requires trimming on the top and on the bottom here, but I'm not going to stress about that at the moment. So we've got this panel here isn't attached. So I'm going to cut that off. Up here, there's a little spot of corrosion, and then down here, this area has been pushed in. To start, I think I'm going to continue in here. Right, so I've kind of gone through and filed that panel a little bit and tried to get it fit in fairly nicely. Right, so I've actually gone ahead and ground that panel back and gave it a squirt of primer. Right, so 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Basically, although you can't see any of it, and it probably sounds pretty mental, I really wasn't happy how this end was sitting. Basically, the whole rear panel was probably underneath the light. I didn't get any photos. It was just where the rear panel interacts with the rear quarter. It was just completely wrong, and I'd previously made a section 4 here. But the more I looked at it, the more unhappy I was with it. So trying again, you know, there's no shame in having another go. It all takes time, doesn't it? But so the approach I'm taking this time, I've basically made a load of cardboard templates. And these will be separate panels that I make. And then I'm gonna have to weld these together and then weld them to the car. I want to have the whole thing as one piece welded to the car. What I did previously was do a piece at a time. So like say, weld this onto the shell, weld this onto the shell, and it just didn't work. So yeah, I'm hoping that I can just reverse all of these, flip them over, and then make the other side. Right, so as you can see here, I've now transferred these patterns to metal. And I've already kind of made a start here. Basically, I'm going to try and form the shapes that I needed. I've never really done this before. I've got a couple hammers and dollies and that kind of thing. And a couple bits of pipe and, you know, whatever's the vice and that, whatever's knocking about. And yeah, I'm just going to try and form that shape of the rear quarter that's been cut out. Right, so basically, I'm going to start off by having pretty much that curve based on here, and then you can see it needs to go. I just need to start flaring the top, and most of it's going to be within that next piece. So if I can just get that to sit comfortably, I think that's a good place to start. Okay, I think that's quite good. I'm going to have to reference this quite a lot because as I flare this edge, so I've got to mirror it, but I can obviously bring it back. As I flare this, I expect that this will try to straighten out, but we'll see. Right, so you can see I've kind of managed to get a bit of a flare on there. This panel doesn't go too far up, so I think less is more. If I need to add more, I can come back. But that still fits on there reasonably nice. The paint's not great. Maybe I should take the paint off. Yeah, so I think next, so I think if I go for that piece next, in theory, between these two pieces, I should be able to work out that middle one. So yeah, now I can obviously flip that upside down. and the next panel has to fill in that gap. It's got quite a bit of a curve on it, so it should be interesting. Might take a couple tries. We'll see. Right, so I've made a start on this middle piece. I'm not really sure if it's going to be usable. This might take a couple goes, but I thought I'd get a quick clip whilst annealing it. I need to let that come down to room temperature slowly rather than dashing it in a tub of water. Right, so I'm not quite sure where you're at, but this is where we've got to so far. You can see this is kind of out of shape a little bit still, but basically this whole piece was about 10 mil in, so this is looking a lot better. It's taking shape. Yeah, so I'll show you the other side, how it compares. So you can see the main section now is this inner area. So I might actually have a measure up, but you can see how the rear panel and this interacts with it. It's not perfect anyway, like these angles are off. Again, none of this will be seen when the bumper's on, but as long as it's 9/10 the way there, I think I'm gonna have to call it that really. I think it's a lot better than it was previous, so there's that. I think this needs to be cranked out a little bit and then try and tack a weld in between them. Right, so I've got that kind of in place, put the rear panel back in, and yeah, I'm much happier with how it sits from the top. You can see there is an overlap here, but if you go back to this side, you can see that does exist. Right, so I've put that up against the car, and it's looking much better than how it was previously. So this time I just made it bigger than what was required, so I think I'm going to end up cutting this down here, and then if I just remove this quickly, there's actually a spot of rust here, so I'm going to go a fair bit across. You can see here the outline of the new panel that I've made. So first I'll cut this to fit along this edge here, and then I'll start figuring out what I'm going to do with this. I don't think this is particularly welded on. Yeah, right. Right, so sorry guys, we've skipped forward a bit here. It's finally getting there. It's a lot better than what it was before. I still need to trim across here, but that's no sweat. If we go around the rear panel, I think the only area that needs any attention now is here and here, where the chisel has torn the metal. Apart from that, I think it's about time to just get on with it and get the rear panel back on. So, yeah. Going around repairing any holes that managed to drill through. It's slowly getting there, definitely. Right, so I've gone around the whole thing, welding up any little bits of damage that was done when the rear panel was removed. Yeah, basically I've laid down some high edge ground, just as this will be a cavity that's not seen, so I thought I'd best get a nice coat of that on. The edges I'll run round, take those back to bare metal, and then cover them with some weld through. I think it's ready. need to have a tidy up, get rid of all this crap. Right, so I've just gone around the panel and kind of marked out where I want to put some holes. So I'm going to drill a hole in this and then just kind of puddle weld it, or whatever it's called, I can't really remember. Yeah, into position. I'll put this here because on the inside I need this to sit properly, so I've just drawn a yellow line. I know about half a centimetre down. That's where I need to go with the holes. Right, so on, it looks like these holes haven't lost their paths. That's good. They're all. I was worried that I'd miss the inner folding. So yeah, I now need to get some grips on the bottom, push it up a little bit. So I think I'm going to do a handful of the welds all around it, and then take the grips off, get the rear bumper on, get the rear lights in, make sure it all actually lines up, and then we can fully commit. Yeah, cool, get in there. Right, we're giving it one last sanity check. The lights aren't actually bolted in, but it looks fine. You can barely see any of the rear panel anyway, once it's all fitted up, especially considering the boot lid's going to be here. The only thing you'll actually be able to see is this middle bit, so we need to stop worrying about it and just get it done. Right, so most of it has come out quite well. As you can see, not a spot weld, like a plug weld pretty much all over it. Yeah, basically I'm gonna go around it all, linish it off. Right, so I've gone around it all, linished back all the welds. I think it's pretty much, it's done now. I've done all like the inner tabs here, done across here. Yeah, I'm gonna squirt some primer out of the can all over it just to stop it from rusting. But I think for the most part, it feels solid. It's obviously not coming off. But yeah, one last thing needs to happen. Cut this thing out. So we've got a fresh disc for a while. Alright, so back the next day, just gone round it. There was a couple of little pinholes that need welding up, that's not a problem. But yeah, overall, I'm very happy with it. I think it's turned out quite well, considering I've never done any sort of panel off and on kind of deal. No seals, no arches, no nothing. So this was the first go, so it came out quite nice. It's quite stressful. In the last video, I had a couple of people asking about the background of the car and like a little bit more info on it. I'll probably do a proper video like that and a walk around, because a lot of people think that you've missed quite a lot. So there's been a lot of little fabrication tasks that I've done over the past year or so to get it to this point. So that will be coming in a couple videos, maybe whenever, at some point soon I will do that. But yeah, for now, the main goal is to get the interior, underside and engine bay ready for paint. A couple of weeks later we'll start the exterior and all the panels and everything else. So busy couple of weeks. Some of you would have noticed that the other car in here is gone, so we've got a lot more space, but that I'm only limited to 2 months that I've got that space, and then we've got someone else moving into the unit. So yeah, gonna be busy. Yeah, cheers and see you next time. Sweet.